I was just driving and I had this thing just, I mean, how can you not notice that, right? So this is the Southington, Ohio Chalker High School. Oh man, I got a point back. There's Daryl. Yeah, let's have a little tour. After exploring Chalker High School, and there's actually an elementary school that they call it right next to it, and I got a lot of photos and videos that I'll show you in a second, some really interesting stuff that I want to point out. But when I got back, I wanted to do a little bit of research on the area and on the building, see if I could pull up some more information, see if I could see some older photography, some construction photos of the buildings being built, stuff like that. First of all, I just think these buildings are amazing, and it's really fun to go look at them and explore them, and we should all be more interested in history, is what I'm really trying to say. Just like care more about it, be more interested in it, the people that lived before us, and especially, you know, these sites are in America and the USA specifically, and specifically if we're talking about that country and the story that we're told, and you know, people having fought for our freedoms and died for them so we can have them now, and we just don't, like, what a disservice if we don't look back and try and learn and protect what, you know. So anyways, whole point being, it's just fun, period, to go see these types of buildings, and I think there's definitely a need for more of it, and just more care for what did happen even just a generation back, you know, 2 generations back, 5 generations back. The hypothesis that I'm putting forward is that a lot of these buildings that I'm going to be showing you are buildings that I believe are much older than we're told. And so how that plays out is the hypothesis is that there were previous civilizations, advanced, industrious, prosperous civilizations here on the American continent, all over it. Clearly there's buildings that seem to be hundreds and hundreds of years old, if not 1,000 plus or multiple thousands of years old, actually right here in the United States of America. But the story, and if you go look at the time periods on when these buildings were built, it said that they were built in the late 1800s, pre-electricity, pre-tech, pre-tools, I mean, it was horse and wood wheel and a shovel maybe is like how they did it back then, right? Whatever you're here for, if you just want to see some cool places, we're going to do that. We're going to learn a little bit about the history behind them, and I'm also going to just point stuff out and be like, hey, ask some questions, think about this a little bit. I didn't really get any good hits at all on old Chalker High School. I just got pictures that look just like it looks now when I just went and saw it. So what I did next is I Google searched Southington Township, because that's where the high school is located. And then I also was like, oh, what's a township? I guess I don't really know what that quite is. And it's just a subdivision, I guess, of, like, you know, you've got a country and then the states and then the cities, and then like within, it just breaks down. It's a smaller subdivision of that, a township, and I guess that's where we get the word town. Southington is located in Trumbull County, Ohio, in the heart of, and this is what I didn't know, historic Connecticut Western Reserve. Back then, Connecticut was a much bigger piece of land. Now it's smaller and it's called a state. But back then, you know, states weren't formed and all that. So there was the whole territory of Connecticut Western Reserve. And this Southington Township was a township inside of that territory. And so I thought, oh, maybe I could search out historic Connecticut Western Reserve, Southington Township, something along those lines, and maybe pull up some more information. Specifically, I wanted to pull up old photographs of the buildings that I'd just seen, see if I could see some construction photos, see if I could see people attending school there, just anything, but nothing at all. So if we look National Register of Historic Places, you'll see right down here, Southington Township School, that's it right there. Fitting into my hypothesis, most if not all of any buildings that I really talk about are on the National Historical Registry, meaning that the government, federal, has swooped in, copped them, laid claim on them, owned them, and they own many of them across the entire country. So that's really interesting. We'll leave it at that for now. And then Chalker High School, I pulled up its wiki, and not much here. Chalker High School is a public high school in the place we just said. It's the only high school in the Southington Local School District. Their mascot is the Wildcats. Chalker High School, okay, I'll just skip that, but yeah, we're just not much information here. And I might come back to this in a second, but this is where we see it right here. So you can see the track, baseball field, and then right here, that's just like a little barn, but right here is the actual charter school, and then right over here is the elementary school. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 baseball fields. Seems a little bit excessive to have 5 diamonds right there. Like I said, I did some searches on I ran like the Connecticut Western thing and wanted to see if anything came up. Again, didn't really find anything for the specific area I wanted to look at, but I did notice something interesting that I did want to share, which is, so this is 55 historical pictures of Southington, Connecticut during World War II. So this is a little bit later, but I still thought this was a very interesting thing to look at, and then I'll show you one other comparison along with it, and then I'll show you the footage from the actual building. Okay, so it started off kind of normal. We got like Center Street, got a store, got a diner, some magazine stand, got some other sort of some sort of shop, just like another store. But then right about here, it starts focusing like heavy on kids. It's like children getting on a school bus, American flag in a classroom, and then this, and that Pledge of Allegiance, you know, showing the kids pledging to the flag. And then this Pledge Allegiance to the flag, which I'm sure we've all seen something similar to that before. The hand salute that the children are giving is called the Bellamy salute, created by this dude, which he wrote in 1892. During the period when it was used with the Pledge of Allegiance, it was sometimes known as the flag salute. So it looks like they did both. They did this kind of flag salute, but they also did this, which I had no clue anyone in America was ever doing this until like yesterday, and then I came across, or like a day or two ago, and then I came across this today, and I'll show you what I came across a couple days ago too and how that relates in. But it says later during the 1920s, 30s, fascists and Nazis adopted a salute which had a similar form. This resulted in controversy over the use of it in the US. But in World War II, the government actually made concentration camps. They called them internment camps for Japanese Americans, because apparently we were so worried about the Japanese Americans trying to attack us from inside of our own country. It was the policy of the US government that people of Japanese descent would be interred in isolated camps. So here's a wiki page. You can read a lot more about it. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here, but yeah, like real thing. In several states, like over 100,000 Japanese Americans put into camps. And I found this interesting photo in one of those when I was looking through. This is in the museum. So the Topaz War Relocation Center is one of the camps that they made in Utah. And this is a photo from inside the museum that they have there now. And it says this is a historic photo on display at Topaz Museum, showing the residents' internment camp near Delta, Utah, saying goodbye to a group leaving the camp between 42 and 45. And those, I don't know, we're going to call those waves, maybe. But it's interesting, you know, because here we've got children forced to do that. And then it says, oh, 20 and 30s, we're not doing that anymore. But then we've got 40s and 50s where we have actual camps in our states, people doing these signs. So yeah, like I said, I was just driving through. I wasn't planning on stopping, but I saw this coming up and I was like, wow. And I was able to get my phone out in time and snap a picture, because I thought I was just going to drive by. But then as I was driving by, I was like, I got to turn around and look at that. But yeah, it was just like, it was an eye stopper. Just a really unique, just out in the country in Ohio, really unique, big, old building, and colorful too, which was really cool. The color surprised me a lot. Here's a look at it from the back side. This is one of the pillars I thought was interesting, just looking at the cement underneath it. And this is just, you know, white paint that's been thrown over the top of the clearly pretty old and very strong and well done cement pillars. Here's the historical marker on it. Southington Township Centralized School and Monument Park. Centralized is interesting. That was one thing I did find interesting when I was reading about it, is that it was part of strategy to centralize education, which is, anyways, very much centralizing is something that governments like to do. Newton Chalker offered to provide the high school and community library to Southington Township in 1905 on the condition that Southington's residents voted to consolidate the township's one-room district schoolhouses and build a new elementary school in a central location. The centralization of rural schools reflected a statewide trend accomplished by most Trumbull County townships. Yeah, so it's just like the states, the governments, they wanted to just centralize education, so they tried to bring it all into one place, and that's apparently what we're looking at here. But is that so? Or were these buildings a lot older than 1905 or 1880s, and this is just what they've turned them into? Here's the Civil War memorial statue that they threw up. So over to the left right here would be the building we were just looking at, and then there's the statue, and then over here to the right is the elementary school, which I'll show you right now. Oh yeah, these cannons right here were located around the statue. All right, here's what's supposedly the elementary school. Very run down. Not much going on in there. There's another look at it more zoomed out. Pretty big, impressive building. This was interesting that I noticed. They've definitely stripped off whatever decoration, ornamentation was right here. And if they did it right there, I'm sure they've done it on a lot of other places around the building. So I think the building's probably, and yeah, we see it again right here on this bottom section. I've noticed this in a lot of different places, and you can see it in Roman architecture, Greek architecture and everything, but these I don't know exactly what color of green it is, but it's kind of a unique color of green, and it's always on the tips of like domes or towers of these old buildings. Not always, but oftentimes. Yeah, so I don't know, these right here, maybe this is what they have pulled off of some design like this, off of this elementary school over here.
Stay down there. Alright, so we're pretty high up here. Honestly, this is a pretty high building. Kind of high up here. A little bit sketchy climbing up these. See that? Kind of high up here.
It's got these big lions out front. I mean, that's old world. Oh yeah, and this is interesting. So underneath those stairs, there's clearly a gap where there's more going on under there. And I'll show you a bit more here, but the whole thing is just buried. Not the whole thing, obviously there's some above ground, but there's a lot more of this building that's just going far underground. That's the spot where I was just standing. Again, that's kind of a giveaway to me. Those sketchy metal stairs with this beautiful brick building where everything's been super thought of and just down to every little piece of it and built very, very well. But then we got these rinky-dink thrown up in a second metal stairs that are about to, here's a look inside. And I mean, you can see it's impressive in there. Like, look at that floor work, how well they've lit out the floor. The stairs, there's marble in there. Like how crafted and designed the wood is. Tall doorways. Like that, like I think these doorways were maybe even just taller at one point. Like, and we made them shorter because we're shorter or something. But most of these doorways have plenty more height above them. Some of them are turned to windows, but this one just looks like they threw a piece of wood at the top of it because they wanted to, it was easier for them to hang shorter doors. There's another shot looking in. I mean, look at that. Oh, I want to see that again. This is the first time I'm actually going back and watching this, but I mean, look at this big archway, these wood pillars. That's very, and they're saying they did that all these doors and these tall doors that match the same height as the archways, the floor, the marble. I don't know. They did that for a high school in a super rural town in the 1800s. I don't know. Maybe it was less rural back then, but then we should see some photographs of some people or just more stuff happening back then. To me, it's just looking like a leftover building from a much earlier time period when people were much better builders. And to do that, you obviously had to have machinery, tools, ways to move, like the weight of all the resources, all the supply to build this building. You probably can't move that weight in the mud with a horse and a wagon. So again, right here, what I'm showing you is clearly this is new rock that's just been slapped onto whatever was originally there, or maybe there was right in that spot there wasn't something originally there, because they obviously had to do something with this building beneath the ground but need to make stairs to a doorway situation. So anyways, there's new rock right there on the right with some wannabe looking like brick silly putty in between it. All right, and then I decided to shove my phone down into these cracks down here and see what's going on down there. Now when I did it at the time, I couldn't really see anything, but there's clearly much more building, much more old brick that's still perfectly intact. It's just underneath the earth. And when you go back into these time periods, there have been what are, mudslides or floods that a lot of earth comes down and it'll bury entire houses, but depending on how tall the building is and how well built it is, if it's built very well and it's tall, then those floods will only cover it up to a certain point. The rest will still stay above ground, and then you've just got a bunch of building sitting underneath the ground, which seems to be the case here. Here's a look at the top of the elementary school building. You can see the green tip up there, and then also right here, these were also clearly some sort of decoration, I would imagine, but some other structure was here that, again, just been stripped down. It just looked like this building's been stripped. Okay, here, we'll try and throw it in the crack here. I think this one might have worked out better. Yeah, so you can see that goes down a ways, and that's not the bottom. It goes down a lot more than that. And then you can come over here to the side of the building and you'll see there's a full door there to take it down to the lower levels. All the way down, I don't know how far down it goes, really hard to tell. And again, rinky-dink metal stairs, like these, whoever built this, if they wanted to put stairs up to that spot, they would have built beautiful cement stairs with lions next to them and stuff, Here's a peek inside. Doesn't look too happy in there, but again, you can see, like right there, you can see that there's stone that's, again, going down more, and everything just looks abandoned and stripped. Here's a 360 view of the whole area. So you've got those 5 baseball diamonds back here. This must have been a whole entire training complex to get people into the MLB or something, because that's a lot of baseball diamonds. And one thing that's really interesting about this whole area, you can just drive the country out here for miles and miles. Drive through several different townships, and you'll see tons of these buildings like this where it's just white paneling on the outside, and I'm staying in one of those right now. If you go strip off the white paneling, it's all brick and concrete underneath it, and it's the same thing. You got the buildings shoot down deeper into the earth. So I don't know, to me it looks like there were full cities, layouts of buildings here, concrete and brick and very well built, and then at some point something happened and whole white paneling was thrown on top of it, and they were given construction dates of 1800s when the buildings around here are concrete and brick from clearly much better builders than existed in that same time period. So that means that they're buildings from older previous civilizations, and we've thrown white panels on top of these buildings. I don't know who we is, but white paneling's been thrown on these buildings, and they've been given much more recent dates than what's probably true. It's these rinky-dink stairs right here, and with the chain link fence and barbed wire on the chain link fence for an elementary school.